File 1, Armadillo Love. In the late 1990s, a lady in our fair city had gone on a date with a local fellow, and while the evening had been nice enough, the romantic connection seemed to just not have clicked for the lady in question, and she decided that they should just remain friends. Now, apparently the phrase, "let's just be friends," didn't quite sink in with the old boy. Or perhaps he had a completely different definition of friend than, well, everybody else. And he began parking his car across from her place of work and staring at her from it for hours at a time. He also began making a continual series of phone calls, the usual stalker stuff, all culminating in a panicked 911 call at 0300 hours when she woke up and found his face pressed against the glass of her bedroom window. He went to jail, and we had a quiet talk with a local justice of the peace who issued a protective order for the lady in question. This protective order seemed to work for a couple of days until she reported that the critter was now sneaking into her garage and moving stuff around. The sheriff predictably went ballistic at this defiance of his directive and swore a mighty oath that Joe Critter was going to get sent off for a long time. However, in order to do that, it was felt that said critter needed to be caught in the act. You know where this is going. Since the Bugscuffle County Sheriff's Office had a grand total of 4 sworn officers, and 3 out of the 4 officers were married with children, it should come as no surprise to anyone that I, as the only unmarried and unentangled deputy, was tapped for this particular special duty. Now, the young lady in question lived at the top of a hill just outside the southwest city limit in a big old 2-story house with an apricot orchard out back and shrubbery everywhere. I showed up that evening, checked in with the lady, and wandered the grounds for a bit, trying to find the best spot from which to lay an ambush. The driveway was long and swept from the road up to the garage and was bordered on both sides by a pyracantha hedge. The yard was absolutely filled with bushes and plants of all varieties, and I figured that on a moonless night, the critter's best bet was to sneak straight up the driveway rather than risk tripping over a root and going head first into a rose bush. So I found a nice little gap in the hedge near the house and figured on waiting until the critter was well within the "do not go within 3 city blocks" section of the protective order before dashing through the hedge and arresting him. I bellied down under the tree, and I waited and waited and waited. Along about 0100, an armadillo wandered up from the aforementioned apricot orchard behind the house, where he had been feeding on fermenting apricots all night, and bounced off my foot. I hear the gentle reader's question now. How did I know it was a he armadillo? Simple. The drunken little sot promptly and aggressively fell in love with my left boot. He would sidle up to my boot, murmuring, "What's your sign, baby?" in armadilloese, and I would shove him away, whereupon he'd sleaze back in, crooning seductive armadillo love songs. And so the evening went. I'd kick him across the lawn. He'd roll a not inconsiderable distance, hiccup, and then promptly oil his way back. About 2 hours later, I'd had it. I was just about to stand up and drop-kick the armored menace into the next state when I heard the crunch of feet tiptoeing up the gravel driveway. I froze, locking in on that gap in the hedge. I had a sneaking suspicion that the armadillo used my distraction to make it to third base and saw a shadow move in front of the gap. I took off like a shot, only to find out that some commie pinko liberal had somehow moved the gap in the hedge. I also found out that pyracantha is a Latin word that means deadly demon vampire bush from hell. I don't know who screamed louder, the armadillo when his lady love disappeared, the stalker when I grabbed a good handful of his shirt, or me when I crashed into a brisket-high wall of finger-length thorns. The lady of the house heard the triplicate scream, decided that the unthinkable has happened, dialed 911, and screamed, "That deputy is getting killed!" Meanwhile, I'm half bent over the thorn bush, trying to hold on to a panicked stalker with my right hand and a walkie-talkie with my left hand. There is struggling, there is swearing, and somehow, in the middle of all this goodness, I end up halfway over the hedge, upside down. I looked past Joe Critter down the road, and all I saw were lights, red lights, blue lights, yellow lights, white lights, flashing lights, strobe lights, wigwags, you name it. All of them were rapidly coming up the road. About that time, Joe Critter managed to twist loose. He hot-footed it down the road, leaving me with his shirt. I got on the walkie-talkie, waited for a pause in the traffic from the SO, DPS, EMS, and game warden, all demanding to know what had happened to me, and said, "I'm all right. Subject is a white male, no shirt, northbound on foot." It is possible, when viewed in retrospect, that in light of the circumstances, I may have lacked a little of my customary sang-froid. You see, the various deputies, firemen, EMTs, park rangers, security guards, DPS troopers, and LEOs from all 8 surrounding counties and towns heard my voice on the radio and thought, "The dog sounds panicked. The dog don't ever panic. Therefore, the dog has obviously been shot, stabbed, gutted, burned, run over, abused, what have you, and is no doubt in immediate danger of expiring." Anyone who hadn't already been coming to the party decided that they'd better show. Before long, Joe Critter was spotted halfway down the road and promptly became the subject of a multi-jurisdictional pig pile. As for me, there I was, upside down and helpless in the grip of that fiendish hedge. And what did my friends and my brothers, my comrades in arms, my drinking buddies do to help me in my time of need? "Hey, who's got a video camera? We have got to get video of this." It took them 30 minutes to get me loose from that plant. I never did see that drunk armadillo again. Good thing, too.